To the Defense Force, he is humanity's trump card. To the Kaiju, he's a monster that hunts monsters. But to himself, he is just Kafka Hibino, a man clinging to his dream of fighting alongside his friends, even if it means losing his humanity piece by piece. Today we'll be ranking Kaiju number 8, Kafka Hibino, Japan's strongest evolving disaster. Let's uncover what we found in today's investigation. To start, we need to examine Kafka's combat feats and physical strength to understand his true threat level. In his human form, Kafka is nothing special. He's getting older, slower, and doesn't have the ability he once had in his youth. But thanks to years of grueling work on the cleanup crew, his baseline strength is well above the average soldier. We see this firsthand when he fights off a kaiju with nothing but a road sign, without a combat suit and without kaiju powers. A feat not many could pull off. Of course, his lack of speed ultimately cost him the fight, but it's an important baseline because once he transforms into a kaiju, these restrictions are completely nullified. When he turns into Kaiju number 8, every physical trait multiplies to superhuman levels. Speed, strength, endurance, all boosted far beyond human limits. Now Kafka can move on par with other kaiju, dodging and weaving through attacks that would annihilate normal soldiers. His true strength, however, lies in his overwhelming physical power. Fatal damage from a single punch isn't unusual for him. Even against disaster-class kaiju, like the Mushroom Monster, Kafka was more than capable of taking it down, only failing to finish the job because he was too busy protecting his comrades in the Defense Force. From the very start, his abilities have been terrifying. In his first battle, he saved a mother and child from certain death by erasing a kaiju with a single strike. Later, he defeated the enraged kaiju threatening Kikoro, once again proving his power wasn't a fluke. At full output, there's no question, Kafka could flatten entire cities in an instant. Even his own universe confirms this. Official Defense Force readings put Kaiju number 8's fortitude level at a 9.8 out of 10, placing him amongst the absolute strongest kaiju ever recorded. We also see his power measured against the best humanity has to offer. Against Director General Shinomiya, wielding a weapon forged from a 9th level kaiju, Kafka went toe-to-toe without hesitation. And when pushed to his absolute breaking point, it became clear that an enraged Kaiju number 8 could have destroyed both Shinomiya and the weapon, but he chose to hold back, sparing an ally rather than unleashing his full destructive potential. Even in close quarters combat, his reflexes and instincts are terrifying. Facing off against Hoshina, the Defense Force's fastest and most skilled close quarters fighter, Kafka not only kept up, he was precise enough to land blows that aimed for Hoshina's blades rather than his body, holding back lethal force while still escaping. His strength, speed, and accuracy prove that in terms of raw ability, Kafka could overpower anyone in his universe if he truly wished. Simply put, his only limiter is his humanity. If Kafka ever gave up that restraint, his instincts and kaiju power would leave nothing but destruction in their path. So with all that said, what about his intelligence and tactics in the field? Kafka's entire philosophy as a Defense Force officer comes from one simple goal: to stand alongside his childhood friend Mina, the star of the Defense Force. This motivation drives him to push far beyond his natural limits, even as he grows older and weaker compared to the younger recruits. Unlike them, Kafka doesn't fight just to prove himself, he fights to keep a promise, and that makes his determination unshakable. Despite barely holding the officer rank, Kafka commands respect from his allies through seniority, charisma, and his ability to stay calm under pressure. In intense situations, he doesn't panic. He reacts, adapts, and controls the battlefield by leaning into his strengths while amplifying those of his teammates. From the very start, Kafka was always better suited as a combat analyst rather than a frontline fighter. His years of experience in the cleanup crew gave him encyclopedic knowledge of kaiju physiology, allowing him to identify weaknesses faster than anyone else. One of the best examples of this comes during a wyvern swarm, where Kafka quickly deduces that such a kaiju don't naturally form groups, meaning a stronger leader had to be nearby. That single observation saved the squad from wasting time on small fry kaiju and redirected them towards the real threat. What makes Kafka truly dangerous, however, is that this calm analysis carries into his kaiju form. Even though he should be losing his human qualities as his kaiju core develops, Kafka has consistently maintained human willpower and self-control. This allows him to fight as both a soldier and a monster simultaneously, letting others handle small targets while he surgically takes on the greatest threats. In his kaiju form, Kafka isn't just a powerhouse. He is a well-rounded leader who can either support his allies or spearhead the assault himself. But with this philosophy and biology also comes devastating weaknesses. First, Kafka isn't impervious to mental warfare. Before his transformation, he gave up on his dream after repeated rejections from the defense force. This proves that while his determination is great, his spirit can be broken. His childlike behaviors and dependence on Mina as the pillar of his tribe is also a double-edged sword. If he fails to live up to her standards, or worse, if Mina were killed or captured, Kafka could fall into despair or uncontrollable rage, leaving him wide open to manipulation. Secondly, the kaiju parasite living inside Kafka is both his greatest gift and greatest threat. As we saw in his battle with Director General Shinomiya, losing control of his kaiju body pushed him into a feral rage. While this did temporarily increase his destructive power, it stripped away his human intelligence, reducing him to a predictable beast-like aggression. Though Kafka managed to overcome this drawback, there's no guarantee it won't happen again under enough stress or trauma. So while Kafka is a brilliant analyst and inspiring leader, his greatest strength, his humanity, is also his most dangerous weakness. Kafka's unique traits are terrifying on their own. One of the most surprising abilities he possesses is something we rarely see in similar anime universes, which is his ability to transform sections of his body into kaiju form without releasing the kaiju aura. We see this firsthand when Kafka casually lifts a van using his kaiju arms, all while standing right next to Kikoru Shinomiya, a prodigy trained from birth to detect and slay kaiju, and she didn't sense a thing. This rapid aura-free transformation is devastating for two reasons. First, it allows Kafka to become the ultimate grey man, unassuming, undetectable, blending into crowds or even combat squads without raising alarms. And second, it eliminates build-up or cooldown from his transformation. There's no glowing up charge, no transformation sequence, no warning. In the time it takes him to throw a punch, Kafka can instantly switch and deliver a full-powered kaiju strike, enough to annihilate an enemy before they even realize they've dropped their guard. But perhaps his most dangerous unique trait isn't about his power, his intelligence, or his body. It's about his army. Fighting Kafka doesn't mean fighting just him. You're also facing down the entire defense force. This means bruisers like Kikoru Shinomiya, speedsters like Hoshina, or long-range artillery snipers like Mina, all working in tandem with a walking natural disaster at their front. Unless an opponent also commands an elite, well-rounded squad on the level of somebody like Luffy or Ainz, they aren't just fighting a monster, they are fighting an army with a god-tier powerhouse leading the charge, a threat you can't outrun or outlast. So while Kafka dominates the Kaiju No.8 universe, his supremacy in the broader anime multiverse shows its natural limits. In his human form, his physical ability and speed are negligible compared to high-tier fighters like Goku or Albedo, but his intelligence, tactical instincts, and battlefield awareness give him an edge in situations most would underestimate. Against opponents who rely on raw destructive output, his human form is a non-factor, yet his ability to analyze, adapt, and coordinate his allies ensures he's never truly powerless. But once fully transformed into his kaiju form, Kafka's offensive and defensive capabilities surged to city-level devastation, with speed, durability, and instinctual combat prowess rivaling the most dangerous physical heavyweights in all of anime. Still, he does face limitations. Opponents capable of exploiting his psychological anchors or targeting the unstable aspects of the kaiju biology could theoretically neutralize him easily, making him vulnerable to strategy-orientated or anti-kaiju combats like Shaltir or Ainz. Against purely destructive forces such as Goku or Luffy, Kafka's attacks could devastate the environment, but would likely struggle against opponents whose speed and energy projection far exceed the Kaiju No.8 universe. Against intellectual and tactical fighters, his instinctual combat sense and ability to synergize with his allies still remains a force to be reckoned with. But raw magical power, or multi-universe powers, could bypass the advantage he builds through planning and teamwork. These comparisons highlight that while Kafka is a tactical and physical apex in his native universe, his supremacy isn't absolute across the multiverse. But his combination of raw kaiju power with battlefield intelligence and team synergy still make him a threat that few could face alone. So with all that said, we have to put Kaiju No.8, Kafka Hibino, into threat level God at the B class. And that is the end of the Kafka Hibino investigation. Let us know who we should rank next, and thank you for watching.